Congratulations on your purchase of a Universal Dynamics robot. I am Rosm7134. A Rosm always completes its task.
It has been fascinating to have a front row seat to the process of making Roz and the world that she lives in. It really feels like, how could this be created?
I was at DreamWorks and asking what projects they had that were in development, and the Wild Robot was amongst the things they showed me, and I immediately gravitated towards it.
I had seen Chris Saunders' work, like How to Train Your Dragon, and so I knew he had a very special way with how he approaches animation and the kinds of stories he wants to tell.
I know how essential Chris is to creating the entire world and all of the color that goes into the performances of all of the characters. He's an incredible director.
Tell your people not to worry.
I started in the days of analog hand-drawn animation, and I'm really, really grateful for that, because seeing people paint and create these things is like nothing else on earth. CG animation eventually got to the point where, we were all dazzled by it, and as a director, one of my favorite things that I got with CG animation is the ability to move the camera. Moving the camera in space is a huge part of storytelling, but one of the things that we lost was some of the details and the warmth that you get in these hand-drawn characters.
Stylistically, we started really pushing different painting styles, and along with the color and the way we were thinking about lighting, all those things coincided, and I think giving us a fresh new take on how to depict nature.
It's a completely different style of movie from what we are doing normally. We try to work a little bit like the 2D artists would work in Photoshop, where basically they work in layer.
All those little touches look the way they do because an artist did it.
The Wild Robot is everyone's voices all together.
You need to learn how things work on this island.
We did a little sample where we're trying to make the leaves and the grass on the ground kind of merge together into solid areas of color that is just broken up by the edge of grass. That really convinced us that it could work.
At the same time, you can't make it look like a moving painting where everything's smeared together all the time. That's been tried with actual oil painting techniques, and it's distracting. We wanted all those painterly touches, but we still wanted to be able to follow our characters through a believable dimensional world.
It's not that it looks realistic, but it gives you a feeling that you're really out in the forest with the sunlight blasting out the leaves and the trees. And definitely the impression that you get in the art makes you really feel like you're there, even though it's really stylized.
One of the reasons this film is so beautiful is that our artists have taken the lead in creating this painterly look.
So he's safe, right?
Maybe. What Baptiste is doing right now is he's banishing a part of this film that actually still has a bit of a CG look. The water is just not working with the rest of it. So Baptiste is doing an effect here where that water, instead of being very smooth and digital looking and CG, now it looks as though it's been treated with a palette knife. It looks now like it's been painted in, so it fits with the rest of the look of the film. If we were chasing absolute reality, we would never quite get there, and you get into a very strange spot. But by backing away of that and just doing this whole more painterly look, what we've gotten is a more real vibe than I've ever seen on an animated film before. Fantastic.
He just wanted to make contact with his own kind.
He is not our kind.
It's because of our artists. I can't do that. He can. The whole key to this movie is that everything looks like it's painted because it is actually painted.
Impossible.
Leading the charge on this new look is Ramon Ziebach, and let's come in. He's our production designer.
Hey, everybody. In the past, we used to do rough indication and go, well, it's all going to be smooth CG later. But on this movie, we're painting those brush strokes in, and then in lighting, they're actually replicating all of that look on the shot. So if I want a little touch of an accent light over here, then they're actually going to try to apply that like paint more in the shot with a light, but then they process it to look like paint.
This is beautiful. Is this going to be a constant light, do you think, or is it going to be like
It's going to be pulsing up and down. So the magenta is going to go up and down, and then we're going to do a lot of interactive because that's just one explosion, but right after that, there's another frame of another big one coming right behind her.
Find that, woo, inside you.
Searching.
Anything yet?
No.
Just have a little fun for once.
One of the coolest things, I think, is that they shied away from giving Roz a human-like face. Her face is just 2 circles. She doesn't have a nose, she doesn't have a mouth, and therefore, she doesn't have expression as we would expect it. And yet, there's so much empathy we get from her as she evolves into a more individualized being.
In general, I gravitate towards robots that don't have a lot of stuff going on in their faces. And so we project emotion onto them. It's a limitation that the animators went with and pushed them to places that were amazing.
She's our main character, and we had to sort of find a quick way to empathize with her. So if you put too many layers of fancy robotic business, you make an unnecessary filter between the audience and the character.
Even though Roz does not have a mouth, Roz is very expressive. She's got these running lights on her that were originally not a big part of the movie, but as the animation started to come in, the animators were using the running lights to pulse and kind of help her acting.
One of the things that we wanted to do was make Roz sound like a new kind of robot. There's a certain tradition for robot sound effects, the sort of servo motor, kinds of sounds, but we wanted to do something new with Roz, so I looked to unusual sources of sounds like pneumatic systems and hydraulic systems.
Roz is a very unique character in that the rig was, as we call it, sort of bespoke. We couldn't use any sort of existing system. Because of how she's designed, it looks like as if it should work with a human rig, but it doesn't because of her arms being very bendy and they can stretch and do all sorts of stuff. We very much wanted to design an overall arc so that if you were to compare and contrast the very first shot of Roz to the very last of Roz in the film, you can see a distinct change in how she's become more organic in her behavior and, in a way, more human.
She has to learn to be more than she was programmed to be. There's something that feels classic, timeless about the journey she goes on. There's such a simplicity to it that makes it profound.
A bit worse for wear, I'm afraid.
I'd say you shine like new.
One of the things that was an unexpected joy was to do animals as animals. So the animators have this maybe once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to animate animals. And they dove in with both feet.
Which meant we had to sort of deep dive into animal locomotion for months and months and months, trying to figure out how these animals move, so that it could become sort of second nature for the animators.
This is not a realistic movie, but we have to find the balance between the stylized and the realistic.
I think I need to find an island that's less weird.
Each goose might have 4,000 to 5,000 feathers on them, and we have helped place all of the individual feathers. All of those 6,000 birds with probably 5,000 feathers apiece.
The entire team that created this look on this film did more than just create a look. They opened the doors and windows of this film's heart. You see the hands of the artists everywhere.
A Rosm always completes its task. You could feel the time and care that had been taken into telling this story. What we have created is immersive, and you have the opportunity to get lost in this world and go on this adventure with Roz.
This is my migration.
The artists here have outdone themselves in bringing a book and a story and characters to life that mean so much to me and to them and to all of our audiences. This is a story that has a lot of truth to it. It's an amazing adventure, but it's an examination and an exploration of what it is to be a parent or a child and to live in a place that is cherished by a lot of people.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate my performance?